But I want to ask you as we get started, I promise I'm not going to get political here, but I want to ask you a question. Do you think Donald Trump is a good man? Now don't answer out loud. I just want you to think about that. Do you think he's a good man? I'm not asking if he's a good president. Do you think he's a good man? You know, a lot of things have been said about him, right? I don't know how much of it's true and how much of it's not true. Do you think Barack Obama was a good man? Now my guess is if you think Barack Obama was a good man, you don't think Trump is a good man. And if you think Trump was a good man, you don't think Obama was a good man. That's just my guess. I don't know exactly where you fall on that. But, you know, this world is full of people that we know that we think are good people and other people we think are bad people, right? You've got friends that you go, you know, that's a good man right there. I want to introduce you to this guy. He's a good man. And somebody else you say, whoo, you want to keep your distance from that guy. You just can't trust a word he says. You can't trust anything about him. He is not a good person. You know, a lot of that is shaped by our personal friendship. Even Hitler, y'all know who Hitler was, right? Killed over 6 million people. Hitler had friends. Even Hitler had friends. So, I mean, a lot of that's shaped by how we have a relationship with those people. The friends of Hitler weren't the people that he was trying to kill. Those people thought he was awful. But his friends thought he was a good guy. Maybe misguided a little bit, but he was a good guy. Let me ask you this. What kind of person are you? Are you a good person? You might say, well, I try to be. I'm not asking if you try to be. I'm asking, are you a good person or are you a bad person? You know, a lot of that, how we judge that, depends on what we compare ourselves to, right? The story's told about a young lady who went to visit her grandmother, and the grandmother lived out in the country. This young lady was raised in the city, and she had never been out in the country before, and she was out in the country, and Grandma lived out where they had a lot of sheep. And one day, as they were looking out the window, she saw a little lamb out in the green grass, out in the pasture, right next to Grandma's house. And they looked out the window, and she saw that lamb, and she said, Grandma, that is the whitest lamb I ever saw. And that night, there was a freak blizzard, and it snowed and snowed and snowed. And the next morning, she got up and looked out that same window at that same group of sheep, and she saw them in the snow, and she said, Grandma, I think those are the dirtiest sheep I ever saw. Well, you see, compared to green grass, it's really white, but compared to white snow, it's not so white. Isn't that right? Okay. Now, what we're here to talk about is our standing before a holy God. And let me show you something Jesus Christ said. He said, the word that I have spoken will judge him in the last day. Now, the him here is anyone who's listening. The words of Jesus will judge you. Now, I'm going to tell you just straight up as we go into this, you're going to die someday. And when you die, you are going to stand before a holy God, a holy judge, and He is going to judge you for the things you did in this flesh. Scripture tells us that. It said you'll stand before the judgment seat of Christ and give account for everything you've done in the flesh, whether good or evil. Now, what I want to ask you to do with me just for a little bit tonight is to look at that standard that God will judge you, and He's going to judge me, by this very same standard. I'm going to ask you to consider this standard with me